Sometimes life hits you with a moment so sharp, so sudden, that everything before it feels like a dream and everything after, well, that's just dealing with the reality check. For me, that moment wasn't the deafening metallic shriek of a construction beam hitting a car. It was the quiet walk afterward, the choice to disappear, expecting nothing. It happened around 8 a.m., just as the city was really waking up, right outside the skeleton of the Kronos Tower, the biggest, shiniest, most ambitious project Thorn Acquisitions had ever attempted. We were setting up some tricky foundation supports on the 10th floor, fighting the morning sun and a few too many early deadlines, when I heard it. Not just a crash, but a tearing sound like God ripping up a piece of paper, followed by the sickening crunch of metal. A crane cable snapped, or maybe just slipped, and a massive steel I-beam, the kind that makes you cross the street, slammed straight down onto a parked black sedan near the curb. Now, if you've been on a construction site as long as I have, your first instinct is safety protocol. Your second is to check the damage. But my body just bypassed both. It saw a person inside. The driver's side of the luxury sedan was gone, crushed inward, and glass was everywhere. Through the spider-webbed windshield, I saw her, Alexandra Thorn, the CEO, the woman whose face was on every banner and whose name was on the blueprints I used to dream of drawing. She was conscious, but trapped, pinned by the steering column, looking less like a titan of industry and more like a terrified bird. I didn't think about her tailor-made suit or the cost of the car or the massive security breach I was creating by jumping off the site without permission. All I saw was a human being who was about 10 seconds away from that beam shifting and ending her life. I sprinted the 40 yards, my old steel-toe boots eating the concrete. I didn't have a crowbar, nothing but my hands that are more calloused than a worn-out saddle. The door was jammed, naturally. I braced my feet, ignored the shouts from my foreman, Gus, and pulled. Just pulled, ignoring the splintering metal, ignoring the sharp edges of the shattered window, until the door bent just enough to create a gap. I reached in, my hands finding her, pulling her out. She was bruised, shaking violently, but whole. As I carried her clear of the wreckage, sirens were already wailing their way toward us, the sound of the world's machinery finally kicking. I set her down gently on the curb. She was still in shock, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She looked up at me, her famous green eyes wide, and she started to say something, maybe thank you, maybe who are you. But I didn't wait. I took off my ratty, sweat-stained work jacket, draped it over her trembling shoulders. That desert morning chill can be brutal, and I walked away. No words, no look back. I just faded into the chaos of the onlookers and the arriving paramedics, blending back into the background where a construction worker belongs. Why save the most powerful woman in the city and then just walk away from a reward that could change your life? That's what Alexandra Thorn spent the next few weeks trying to figure out. But for me, Leo Sterling, the answer was simple. At 5:30 every morning, the harsh, electronic buzz of my alarm cuts through the thick darkness of my tiny Cedar Grove apartment. I slapped the snooze button instantly. The habit of a single dad who lives in constant fear of waking the most important person in his life. Chloe. Chloe is 6. She's all big brown eyes, dark braids, and the kind of infectious, unrestrained giggle that can make the worst Monday morning feel like Friday night. Her room is small, barely bigger than a closet, but it's a gallery covered in marker drawings of astronauts and veterinarians. Her to current career choices. College funds, they're an abstract concept, filed away under things I can't afford. But the abundance of creativity and attention, that I can give her. By 6:15, we're at our Chip Formica kitchen table. I drink my coffee black, hot, and fast, fueled by the 3 hours of sleep I cobbled together after my second shift. Chloe, my little pattern artist, meticulously arranges her cereal row by colorful row before she'll take a single bite. It's a quirk she developed about 3 years ago, right after her mother, Sarah, decided that motherhood wasn't her vocation and walked out, claiming she needed to find herself. I still drop Chloe off at Mrs. Vasquez's apartment downstairs. Mrs. V, God bless her, is our lifeline. The elderly woman watches Chloe for pennies on the dollar, Compared to what formal daycare would cost, the only reason I can work the hours I do. To keep us afloat, Leo. You look paper thin, Mrs. Vasquez noted yesterday, her kind, wrinkled eyes seeing right through my tired fade. Extra shifts again? I nodded, strapping on my hard hat for the day, trying to save up for Chloe's new winter boots. She's growing like a weed. What I didn't mention was the Alexandra Thorne incident. The crash, the beam, the rush of pure, thoughtless action. At 35, my hands are permanently scarred from a decade of hard labor. My brown hair is perpetually dusty, and the lines around my eyes, those are the blueprints of fatherhood, drawn by exhaustion and love. Most guys on the site talk about fantasy football and their dating apps. Me, my rare free time is spent teaching Chloe how to pump her little legs on the swings, or wrestling with a leaky faucet in our aging apartment, the real architecture of survival. My foreman, Gus, a man whose patience runs thinner than my savings account, intercepted me at the site gate. Sterling, you're on the 14th floor today. Keep your head down and your eyes on those supports. We need them finished by noon. I nodded, slipping on my helmet. Arguing with Gus was a luxury I couldn't afford. It took energy I needed for the next 9 hours of labor, and the 4 hours of daddy time that followed. What none of those guys knew was that 12 years ago, I was halfway through a competitive architecture program designing skyscrapers, not just building the steel guts of them. Then came Sarah's pregnancy, the hurried courthouse wedding, and my decision to drop out. The architecture dreams, they were neatly folded away, replaced by the only blueprint that mattered, stability for Chloe. As I worked, sweating and hauling wire mesh in the scorching sun, my mind drifted to Alexandra Thorne. I hadn't recognized her until I saw her face immaculately composed, even in the crash photo on a discarded newspaper in the break room. The CEO, the mogul. The thought of claiming credit, of using her brush with death for reward, never once crossed my mind. When one of the younger guys, unaware of my role, joked about the huge reward being offered to the rescuer, I just shrugged, unwrapped my simple sandwich, and lied. Didn't see much. Was working on the east side. That was the rhythm of my days. Work, Chloe, sleep, repeat. It wasn't the life I'd imagined. But when Chloe wrapped her arms around my neck at bedtime and whispered, "You're the best daddy in the whole universe," it wasn't just enough, it was everything. Meanwhile, 42-year-old Alexandra Thorne sat in her sleek, minimalist office on the 35th floor of a different Thorne building, her tailored black suit concealing the remnants of the accident. The view from her window framed the Kronos Tower, still under construction, a testament to her ruthless, effective philosophy. Every problem has a price, and every outcome can be purchased. Miss Thorne, the board is concerned about your insistence on returning to work so quickly. Marcus, her young, perpetually stressed assistant, spoke as he placed a stack of acquisition reports on her polished glass desk. The board can focus its concerns on the quarterly profit margins I've delivered, she replied, her voice cool, sharp, and decisive. What is the status of identifying the construction worker who helped me that morning? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Security footage was limited, ma'am. HR is cross-referencing site access logs, but without a clear description. Alexandra finally looked up, her famous green eyes that could cut through a bad deal instantly fixed on him. I need a name, Marcus. That man saved my life. Thorne Acquisitions rewards excellence. And what he did was beyond excellent. What she couldn't articulate was how profoundly shaken she was. For 8 years, ever since her divorce from Julian, she had built literal skyscrapers and metaphorical walls, keeping the messy reality of human need at a sterile, professional distance. That morning, a stranger had broken through both with nothing but his bare hands and an uncalculated impulse of pure human concern. It was a variable she couldn't account for, a resource she couldn't quantify. She ordered exhaustive, discreet interviews, safety reviews, and even authorized a massive, anonymous safety bonus for all site employees, hoping the lure of money would flush him out. Nothing. Maybe he doesn't want to be found. Alex, suggested Eleanor, her closest friend and chief legal counsel. Over their ritual monthly dinner. That's absurd. Alexandra scoffed, swirling the wine in her glass. Do you know what I could offer him? A corner office, a full college scholarship for his kids, financial security for life. Everyone wants that. Maybe not everyone measures life by your metrics, Van, Eleanor said gently. Using her old nickname. The comment hit Alexandra like a physical blow. It exposed her deepest flaw, her belief that all human motivation could be boiled down to a cost-benefit analysis. It was how she'd built her empire, yes, but it was also what Julian had accused her of when he left. You're too focused on success to remember how to love. 3 weeks after the accident, Marcus finally had something. Employee badge access showed one worker, Leo Sterling, missing from his station for exactly 22 minutes during the critical window. Single father, 6 years on site, no disciplinary issues. Marcus placed a thin manila file on her desk. Lives in the Cedar Grove complex with his daughter. Alexandra opened the file. Leo Sterling looked back at the camera, a face that had seen hardship, but eyes that were clear, direct, and utterly lacking in pretense. His daughter, schedule a meeting, she said, her voice firmer than ever. Bring him up here. Tell Gus it's for a special project assignment. Leo knew something was wrong the moment he checked in. Gus, the foreman, was shifting his weight uncomfortably. Sterling, the big upstairs wants you. 15th floor, corner office. They're expecting you for a special assignment. With every floor, the elevator climbed toward the luxury offices. In the completed section of the Kronos Tower, Leo's stomach tightened. He had spent years mastering the art of invisibility. Do your job well, but never stand out. Visibility meant vulnerability, and Chloe's stability depended on him remaining rock steady. The temporary office was all glass, steel, and elegant minimalism, a blueprint for a life I had once almost designed. Behind the enormous desk sat Alexandra Thorne, perfectly composed, auburn hair in a severe knot. Only a subtle fading bruise near her collarbone betraying the chaos of that morning. Mr. Sterling, she said, rising from her chair. Thank you for coming. Leo remained near the door, his posture defensive. Didn't have much choice, Miss Thorne. Is there a problem with my work? Quite the opposite. She gestured to the chair. Please, sit. He sat cautiously, his worn work gloves still clutched in his hands. The contrast was absurd. Her suit probably cost more than my entire apartment's rent. My boots carried the dust of the day's labor. Her shoes were polished reflections of the city skyline. 3 weeks ago, Alexandra began, her green eyes holding mine. There was an accident. A construction beam fell onto my car. You were there. I helped, Leo stated, his expression neutral, giving her nothing. You saved my life, she corrected, the words precise. And then you disappeared. No request for recognition, no contact with the company, nothing. Why? Leo met her gaze directly. You needed help. I helped. That's all there was to it. That is absolutely not all there is to it, she countered. Leaning forward, the predator scenting the kill. What you did was extraordinary, Mr. Sterling. Thorne Acquisitions rewards extraordinary actions. She pushed a crisp folder across the desk. Leo didn't touch it. Inside, she explained, her voice softening slightly, is an offer. A management position in our facilities division. Better hours, double your current salary, full benefits package. Your experience, combined with your obvious quick thinking, makes you an ideal candidate. Leo finally reached for the folder, but only to slide it back toward her, careful not to wrinkle the pristine paper. I appreciate the offer, Miss Thorne, he said evenly, but I'm not looking for a new position. Confusion real. Uncalculated confusion flickered across her face. She was used to negotiation, not rejection. Perhaps I wasn't clear. This role would more than double your salary. It provides a full benefits package, medical, dental, life insurance, everything. I understand perfectly what you're offering, Leo replied, his voice still calm, but now carrying a faint edge of disappointment. But I didn't help you to get something in return. That's not why I did it. Then why did you? The question burst out of her, surprising her as much as it surprised me. Breaking the corporate composure. Leo shifted in the uncomfortable leather chair, running a calloused hand over the worn fabric of his jeans. Because you were in danger. Because that's what people should do for each other. And because my daughter is watching everything I do, learning how to be in this world. Alexandra's professional mask cracked further. Your daughter, Chloe, she's 6. The corner of Leo's mouth lifted slightly, the closest thing to a genuine smile she had seen from him. She wants to be an astronaut, or maybe a veterinarian. It changes every Tuesday. Alexandra took a breath, absorbing this new information, and tried another path, the path of the benefactor. If not a job, then a reward. A college fund for Chloe, new housing options. I can solve the financial instability. Mr. Sterling, you don't have to struggle. Leo stood up. Something like profound disappointment crossed his features. Miss Thorne, I'm sure you mean well, but turning a basic human response into a transaction, it cheapens it, doesn't it? For the first time in her professional life, Alexandra Thorne was left utterly speechless. In her world, everything had a price, a value proposition, a measurable metric. The idea that some acts existed outside that financial framework was alien, confusing, and unexpectedly challenging. I need to get back to work, Leo said quietly. They're setting those support beams on the 14th floor today. Wait, Alexandra called, rising quickly. At least take your jacket. You left it with me that day. She retrieved the worn, dusty fabric from a cabinet behind her desk. Leo looked at it with genuine surprise. I wondered where that went, he murmured, taking the jacket from her. Their fingers brushed briefly her soft, manicured skin against his rough, scarred hand. Alexandra felt a confusing, unexpected current, not attraction, but the disorienting jolt of encountering something completely, fiercely authentic in a life of careful, calculated artifice. Saturday morning found me, Leo Sterling, right where I always belonged, at the Westbrook Community Park, sitting on a weathered bench while Chloe conquered the rickety jungle gym. These weekend outings were sacred. No work, no distractions, just me and my favorite little person. Daddy, watch this, Chloe called, hanging upside down, her dark braids dangling like tiny ropes. I see you, monkey. I called back, giving her a thumbs up. Just be careful. I was so focused on her daring feats that I didn't notice the new variable approaching. Until she spoke. She's fearless. I turned, and there she was, Alexandra Thorne. But not the CEO. She was dressed down, simple jeans, a cream silk blouse so unlike the razor-sharp woman in my office that I barely recognized her. Miss Thorne, I said, straightening up automatically. What are you doing here? She gestured vaguely toward the walking path, avoiding eye contact. I live about a mile from here. Sometimes I walk through on weekends. I nodded once, saying nothing more, turning my attention back to Chloe, who was now attempting the dreaded monkey bars. Alexandra hesitated, then sat down on the far end of the bench. The silence was heavier than the I-beam that had started all this mess. I've been thinking about what you said in my office, she finally admitted, her voice low, about cheapening things by turning them into transactions. I glanced at her, but remained silent. The thing is, she continued, with an almost painful honesty, in my world, that's how value is determined. It's all cost-benefit analysis, all day, every day. Sounds exhausting, I commented, gently, before she could respond. Chloe came barreling up, slightly out of breath. Daddy, the ice cream truck is here. Can I have one, please? She extended the please into a dramatic, four-syllable plea, clasping her hands dramatically. I laughed, a deep, warm sound that even surprised me with its openness. It was definitely the first time Alexandra had heard it. Okay, sunshine. Just a small one. As I reached for my wallet, Chloe, ever the diplomat, noticed Alexandra. Are you Daddy's friend? Hello, Chloe. I'm Alexandra, she replied, a genuine, small smile touching her lips. Yes, I work with your father. Chloe's eyes widened. Do you build big buildings too? Something like that, Alexandra conceded. I gave Chloe a few dollars. The truck is by the fountain. Get me a strawberry popsicle if they have one. Be safe. As Chloe skipped away, the awkward silence returned. But this time, it was different. It felt like a space waiting to be filled, not avoided. I should apologize for how I left things in your office, I finally said. It was abrupt. Alexandra shook her head. No, I should apologize. I approached the situation all wrong. She watched Chloe carefully selecting her ice cream. She's wonderful. She's everything, I said simply. Chloe returned, balancing 3 frozen treats like a tiny, determined waiter. I got you a strawberry one, Daddy. And I got a vanilla cone for your friend because everyone likes vanilla, right? Before either of us could react, Chloe had thrust the rapidly melting cone toward Alexandra. That's very thoughtful. Chloe, Alexandra said, carefully accepting the ice cream. We sat there, eating our frozen sugar bombs, Chloe chattering about school, her best friend Mateo, and her plan to build a cardboard rocket ship. Alexandra found herself smiling genuinely, caught up in a world where the only metric was fun. What do you do? Chloe eventually asked Alexandra, vanilla ice cream smudged on her cheek. I run a company that builds buildings, Alexandra explained, simplifying her life's work into a single, digestible phrase. Chloe's eyes widened. Like the really tall ones downtown? Daddy helped build those. He's the best builder ever. He fixed Mrs. Vasquez's sink and built me a bookshelf for my birthday. I felt myself flush slightly. But Chloe wasn't finished. Daddy can fix anything, she insisted. Except maybe Mommy. But he says some things stay broken, and that's okay. The air thickened instantly. I gently wiped Chloe's cheek. Sunshine, why don't you try the swings for a bit? Not too high. Once Chloe was out of earshot, I sighed. Sorry about that. Kids have no filter. No, Alexandra said truthfully, watching Chloe pump her legs on the swing. It's refreshing. In my world, everyone has an agenda. She paused. She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, I replied, my eyes fixed on my daughter. Over the next 2 months, our Saturday park meetings became an improbable, unexpected constant. We fed ducks, we flew a cheap, brightly colored kite, and sometimes we just walked. Alexandra, who usually planned her week down to the minute, was now planning it around a 6-year-old's nap schedule and the weather forecast. She found herself delegating tasks she would normally micromanage, just to keep the slot open. You seem less intense lately, Eleanor observed one evening over dinner. Do I? Alexandra asked, trying to sound indifferent. You seem more present, her friend clarified. Less like you're mentally reviewing spreadsheets while we talk. Does this have anything to do with that construction worker? Marcus mentioned you've been tracking his project assignments. Alexandra set down her glass. Leo and his daughter, Chloe, have become friends, I suppose. Friends, Eleanor repeated, her eyebrows practically touching her hairline. Try not to sound so shocked, Alexandra said. Dryly, I am capable of human connection. Of course you are, Van. It's just not your usual type of connection. He's a construction worker. He's more than his job title, Alexandra replied, a sudden, fierce defensiveness creeping into her voice. He's intelligent, thoughtful, and an excellent father. You like him, Eleanor stated. Not asked, it's not like that, Alexandra insisted. But the warmth spreading across her cheeks betrayed her. He's shown me a different perspective, a life measured by different metrics than profit margins and market expansion. So, what happens next? Eleanor asked. You keep meeting them at the park forever, feeding ducks while running a real estate empire? The question hit Alexandra hard, echoing the uncertainty that had been circling in her own mind. Where could this possibly lead? The following week, after a brutal board meeting, Alexandra made an impulsive decision. She had her driver take her to the Cedar Grove complex instead of her luxury high-rise. The building was exactly what she expected: worn, clean, a place built for function, not status. She found apartment 3B and knocked before she could reconsider. I opened the door, pure surprise on my face. Vanessa, may I come in? She asked, suddenly aware of how ridiculous she looked in her executive suit and 5-inch heels. I stepped aside, letting her enter the small, carefully maintained apartment. It was tiddier than she expected, covered in Chloe's bright artwork. I saw her eyes land on my pine bookshelf filled with children's books, but also my old architecture texts. Chloe's at a birthday party, I explained. Is everything okay? Alexandra sat on the edge of the sofa, trying to organize the chaos in her mind. I've been thinking about our conversations, about different ways of measuring a life. I sat across from her, waiting, guarded. Thorn Acquisitions just acquired West Side Development, she continued. They own this building, among others. I've authorized a complete, top-to-bottom renovation of this property, and I'd like to offer you a position overseeing the entire project. My eyebrows shot up. Why me? Because you care about this place and the people in it. Because you have an eye for detail and practical solutions. This could be a fresh start, Leo. Better pay, regular hours. A chance to use your mind as well as your hands. And what would I owe you for this opportunity? I asked quietly. The question stung her more than I intended. Nothing. It's not a transaction, Leo. It's an opportunity I'd offer any qualified candidate. But you're not offering it to any qualified candidate, I pointed out, my voice gentle but firm. You're offering it to me specifically. Alexandra stood, moving to the window, finally turning to face me. Fine. Yes, I'm offering it to you because I've come to care about what happens to you and Chloe. Is that so wrong? No, I said carefully. But it does make me wonder why the CEO of Thorn Acquisitions is personally delivering job offers to a construction worker's apartment. Alexandra took a deep breath. Because I want you in my life, Leo. You and Chloe. You've shown me a world beyond profit margins and board meetings. When I'm with you both, I feel like a person, not a position. I stood to, my expression troubled. Alexandra, I think you're confusing gratitude with something else. You don't really know me. I know enough, she countered, her voice strained. I know you gave up architecture school to support your family. My eyes widened. She researched me, and did your research give you the answer? There was an edge in my voice, now a sense of privacy violated. No, she said honestly. But our Saturdays together have. You live by a different code than I do, Leo. And I think I need that perspective in my life. I ran a hand through my hair. Alexandra, I can't be your moral compass or your window into how the other half lives. I'm just trying to raise my daughter and keep our heads above water. That's not what I meant. She insisted, frustration edging into her voice, isn't it? I asked gently. You come here offering me a better job, a renovated building solving my problems the way you solve everything, with resources and efficiency. But some things can't be fixed that way. Help that comes with strings, even unspoken ones. I can't accept that. Not for me, and not for Chloe. What strings? She demanded. I'm not asking for anything in return. Aren't you? I looked at her steadily. You said you want me and Chloe in your life. On what terms, Alexandra? As a project? As accessories to a life you think you're missing? The words hit hard. She couldn't entirely deny them. She had been trying to acquire the authenticity of my life the way she acquired companies. I should go, she said finally, grabbing her purse. This was a mistake. I didn't stop her. But as she reached the door, I spoke quietly. Alexandra, whatever you're looking for in life, you won't find it by trying to buy it or manage it. Some things have to grow on their own terms. 3 weeks passed. No Saturday park meetings. Alexandra threw herself into work with renewed, feverish intensity. But the quiet certainty of my rejection had planted a seed. One evening, staring out at the impersonal skyline from her penthouse, she was drenched in rain. Having walked home without her usual driver, she surveyed her immaculate, minimalist apartment chosen by decorators, filled with art selected for investment value. No photographs, no personal mementos. Julian had been right. She had forgotten how to be anything but a CEO. The next morning, she called Eleanor. I'm restructuring my role at Thorn Acquisitions, she said without preamble. I want to step back from day-to-day operations, focus on strategy, because I've built a company that runs on transactions rather than relationships, and I've done the same with my life. Later that week, she drove herself back to the Cedar Grove complex. She stood outside apartment 3B, rain dripping from her jacket, no makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, no suit, no power, just Alexandra. I opened the door, surprised again. Vanessa, can we talk? She asked. I stepped aside. Chloe's with Mrs. Vasquez. Piano lesson. I've been thinking about what you said, she began, leaning against the counter. About equal footing. You were right. I was approaching our friendship like a business acquisition. A small, wry smile touched my lips. That's certainly one way to put it. I don't want to be your CEO or your benefactor, she continued, taking a step toward me. I just want to be Vanessa, the woman who feeds ducks with your daughter. The woman who's learning that some of the most valuable things in life can't be bought or managed. And what does Vanessa want? I asked quietly. A chance, she replied simply. Not to fix your life, just to be part of it on whatever terms make sense. No strings, no expectations. Why? I asked, needing to hear it one last time. Because when I'm with you and Chloe, I remember who I was before boardrooms and balance sheets. I remember what it's like to measure a day by laughter instead of profit margins. She paused. And because I think I could love you both if given the chance, I unfolded my arms. Chloe's been asking about you, wondering if you'll ever come feed the ducks again. And what about you? She pressed, her voice trembling slightly. If you can see that what makes you remarkable isn't your company or your achievements. I said softly, it's just you, the woman who sits on a park bench eating ice cream with a 6-year-old and doesn't check her phone once. 6 months later, a crisp autumn morning, I stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, while Alexandra poured coffee into 3 mugs. Chloe sat at the tiny table, carefully cutting toast into heart shapes, her latest breakfast innovation. Daddy, can we go to the new playground after school today? Chloe asked. Not today, sunshine, I reminded her. I have that meeting with the architectural firm, remember? Alexandra slid a pancake onto Chloe's plate. But I can take you if you'd like. My last meeting ends at 3. Chloe brightened instantly. Really? Can we get hot chocolate after? We'll see, Alexandra said with a wink, a parental middle ground she'd learned from me. The changes were evident in a dozen small ways. Alexandra's briefcase now held contracts and a small sketchbook for Chloe. My apartment featured several new bookshelves, designed and built together. With Alexandra's encouragement, I had applied for and received a project coordinator position. Using my practical experience and my forgotten architecture knowledge, my hours were regular now, my pay better, my head above water. Alexandra was leaving the office by 5 most days, focusing on strategy, not micromanagement. Are you nervous about the meeting? Alexandra asked as Chloe gathered her things. A little, I admitted. It's been a long time since I sat across from professional architects. They'll be impressed, she said with certainty. Your portfolio speaks for itself. As we prepared to leave Chloe and I for school drop-off, Alexandra for her meeting, Chloe suddenly stopped in the doorway. Wait, group hug first, she insisted. We complied, forming a tight circle of 3. Alexandra felt my strong arm around her waist. Chloe's small body pressed against us both. The feeling wasn't the triumph of a major acquisition. It was quieter, deeper, a sense of belonging that no corner office had ever provided. At the door, I paused, kissing her softly. Thank you. For what? She asked. For seeing me, I said simply. Not what I could do for you, just me. Alexandra took my hand, feeling the calluses that remained, the strength that had once pulled her from wreckage. Thank you for the same, she replied. As we parted ways, Alexandra smiled, typing a message into her phone. Chloe says to remember hot chocolate has marshmallows. Or it doesn't count. The journey had started with a crash, but it ended with a conversation about marshmallows. That's life, right? Here's the thing, though, Alexandra used her immense wealth to track Leo down, to offer him jobs, to buy the apartment complex he lived in. Was her final love confession truly genuine? Or was it the ultimate transaction, the final acquisition of the one thing she couldn't buy? Authenticity and a complete family? Does true love ever start with a 5-figure job offer? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Was this a genuine connection built on equal footing? Or was Alexandra just flexing her corporate muscle until Leo finally said yes? Hit that like button and subscribe if you think some things like love should be kept off the balance sheet. Let's debate this one.